Dave, let's get started. I know that the first Warrior Games was in 2010 in Colorado Springs. And it was originally, I believe, something that the Olympic Committee um, oversaw. And then a few years later, the Marine Corps took over and was in Quantico. Is that correct? That's my old stomping grounds. I grew up just a few miles outside of. So I would love to hear what happened after that. And how did the Army get in charge? I mean, I think I know, but
Well, thanks. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and, to be joined by both Fish Stokes and Dr. Shaker, two great Americans that have done yeoman's work for our service members. And I'm blessed to be called part of their team. As you said, the Olympic Committee initially stood up the games. They ran it for, I think, 4, maybe 5 years. And at that point, they returned it to then the Department of Defense, which we now refer to as the Department of War. Each of the services ran the games one time. That's when you saw it, obviously, with the Marines at Quantico. Every service, to include SOCOM, who we treat like a service Special Operations Command, who we treat like a service entity, each ran the games one time. But as you would imagine, there's a lot of work that goes in. We started planning for this games as soon as last year's games end. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And there weren't a lot of efficiencies or lessons learned. So in 2000, and I think it was 21, the Secretary of Defense gave the mission to the Army. And at that time, I was the Deputy G357 at the U.S. Army Training at Doctrine Command, and we got involved with the game. So as you highlighted, to me, it's the premier adaptive sporting event for our sick, ill, and injured service members. And when I'd highlight, the natures of our cohort has changed. We're not in the stained ground combat where we're seeing the traumatic injuries of lost limbs and arms and eyesight, etc. There's still a need for these things. When you look at vehicle accidents, motorcycle accidents, cancer survivor, Lou Gehrig disease, we see the cohort has changed, but the need for the games remain critical to what the service does to support our sick, ill, and injured service members.
well, let's talk a little bit about that because I know the mission language describes the competition as a way to enhance recovery and rehabilitation. It supports physical and mental wellness, provide a forum for athletes to demonstrate resilience and camaraderie. So it's a lot of things. It's not just one thing, and it's not just competition. There's a lot that goes into it, and adaptive sports. I came from Paralyzed Veterans of America, where that was what we did, so I understand. But what do you see as success before even medals are awarded? How does that process work for you? What does this do?
I would highlight, I think the competition is the least important thing that we do. It's not about winning the gold medal. But when some of these, when many of the service members are injured, they miss being part of a team. They grew up a squad, a platoon, a company, whatever the case may be. When they get injured, not intentionally, they often get set aside and they miss that camaraderie. So I think the games provide a venue for, as you said, physical and mental recovery. It gives them a goal. It gives them something to get out of bed in the morning, etc. But I'd highlight the Warrior Games should not be the be-all, end-all. It should be the launch pad to something else. Something else, ideally, it's return to duty. And we've had some great success stories. For example, the Air Force gave us a number just about a month ago. 1,600 service members in return to duty. That's a tremendous, tremendous reward. So they leverage the games to help with their physical and mental recovery. Or the veterans that's not going to return to duty, ideally the games have introduced them to a sport or something that they can continue on with the rest of your life. I kind of liken it to Boy Scouting, right? The Boy Scout exposes you to 50 different mariffages or coin collecting, rifle shooting, archery, whatever the case may be. Most of our athletes are going to do anywhere between 3 to 5 of the individual events. Ideally, they're going to find an event that gets them excited and gets them out of bed And then we can help them transition, whether to the VA Valor Games or to the state games. And they find the adaptive sport that they love that helps them continue on their recovery journey.
Let's talk about the games. There are, we talked about this before, there are 11 official games, but one, what did you call it?
Well, I'm an exhibition sport.
Okay, exhibition. So why don't you tell us what those are? I'm excited about the exhibition too. So
You're going to test my memory. So
I can help you out.
we have 9 individual sports and 3 team sports. So the team sports that the athletes will participate in being wheelchair rugby, wheelchair basketball, and seated volleyball.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, this year we've introduced pickleball as an exhibition sport. That's because it's going to be next year in Birmingham, England. It'll be a sport as part of the Invictus Games. But the other sports that we have will be swimming, seated rowing, powerlifting, track, field, archery, marksmanship.
You mentioned Birmingham and Invictus Games. Talk about that a little bit.
When the service teams put together their athletic team for the Wardens, each service team is allowed to bring 40 athletes. Of that, 28 or so will be active duty, must be on active duty service members, and then they're allowed to bring in 12 veterans. And those veterans have to have been retired for the most cases within the last 5 years. And we allow that because they may not have been a point in the time of their recovery journey where they have been able to participate, and we do want to give them the opportunity. Well, from the Warrior Games, this team here will also pull together the U.S. team, which we will bring to the Invictus Games. So this year, we're going to bring 48 athletes to the Invictus Games. And the Invictus Games were born of the Warrior Games. You know, Prince Harry came to Orlando. He had seen the Warrior Games. He has a passion for taking care of service members. And what he did was take the Defense Warrior Games and bring it to the international level. So this year, I think there's some odd countries that will participate in the Invictus Games. They run the Invictus Games in the odd year. So next year, as I highlighted, will be in Birmingham.